Now, before 1905, science was basically followed what is called Newtonian physics. And don't worry, I'm going to break this down. According to Newtonian physics, when you take an atom, they believe that that atom is basically hard, solid matter. But guess what they discovered? You get an electron microscope, and you look closely at the atom, and the closer and the closer and closer you look at the atom, guess what's going to happen? It's going to disappear. Why? Because ultimately, that atom is not hard, solid matter. It is energy. You look at your hand, you look at the table, you think it's hard, solid matter. But if you take a microscope and you go closer and closer and closer, guess what's going to happen? It'll eventually disappear. You're going to say, where did it go? Because that's the thing. Everything is energy. What people used to believe before is that you take two things, and in between those two things is what we call empty space. That's according to Newtonian physics, that in between things, between you two people, it's empty space. But then according to what's been revealed, is that there's nothing in between people or things called empty space. In between is what? Energy. And that's why there's a guy with crazy hair that wrote on a chalkboard that said E equals mc squared. Who's that? Albert Einstein. After that, in 1905, it changed the world. Energy can come in visible form in the sense of a particle. And energy could also be an invisible wave. And all energy consists of three elements: a frequency, wavelength, and a color spectrum. So everything that you see around you is actually energy right now. Okay? Now this is wild for people because they don't believe that. You could have someone touch your hand and all of a sudden you can know their thoughts. But in the prophetic movement, we call that word of knowledge or the prophetic gifting. I'm telling you, call it whatever you want. It's quantum physics. Haven't you, us folks, sometimes where you're thinking of a person in your mind, then all of a sudden you get a call from that person and you're like, hey, I was just thinking about you right now. Why? Because we're all connected together somehow with this energy. There's nothing in between us that separates us, like I said. We are all connected together. In fact, there's an experiment that was done there was a subject who had the cells scraped from the roof of his mouth. And the cells from the roof of the mouth was put inside of a test tube. And that test tube was hooked up to what is called a polygraph or a lie detector. So they set up the cells that were scraped off from the roof of the guy's mouth, or the person's mouth. They put it in a test tube, hooked it up to a polygraph, and they put this other guy in another part of the building, and they let him watch TV shows. As he was watching these television shows, there were different kinds. There were some that were violent. There were some that were peaceful and calm. Every time this person was watching and reacted to the particular TV show, the cells in that test tube were reacting. It had the same physiological arousal and reaction every time when he watched something violent, it reacted. And he's not even in the same room. He's in a different part of the building. Then he watched something violent, there was the same physiological arousal and reaction as well with those cells. And then guess what they did to make it even more interesting? They put that person 50 miles apart from his cells. Same reaction. Why? Because everything within you is connected together. This is why you can do something called distant healing. Why do some of us say, can you please pray for so-and-so? And they're at home. Why does distant healing work? Because we're all connected together. So even if your family is at home or they're in another country, if your faith or your intent can reach there and focus on there, that's why it's able to affect their body. Because we're all connected somehow in this world. Did you know that everything including us, we consist of vibrations and frequencies? Did you know that? Now when we think about this whole power that we have in this world, believe it or not, many of you, actually all of us, feel it every single day. Did you know that? Every single day. It's just that you're not aware of it. For example, some of us are finally aware of the fan. But before I said that, you weren't aware of the fan. You were only aware of my voice. Or sometimes we're outside and we're talking with our friends and we're not even paying attention to the noise of the streets. or the kids playing. It's there, but you're not aware. And I'm going to be teaching you folks on how to tap into or how to tune into this whole energy and power that is around us and even in us,